Hunter x Hunter is my favorite anime of all time. I could sit here and list a multitude of selling points that made me started to worship the series religiously. But one of the most profitable part of the narrative that pulls new viewers in like a magnet is the various different personalities and specific character traits that the series present in front of you. The various different themes, character development, cultural exploration can be very complicated from an outside perspective, but simplistic at its core when you become emotionally invested. When watching Hunter x Hunter, you must pay close attention to its every detail, what's on screen, and most importantly, what's off screen. Currency of thought is a medium of exchange to understanding this glorious story. The characters are also modeled and portrayed differently to that of your everyday anime. They are very complex in their ideals, so much so that it seems like they were created by Togashi for us to never truly be understanding of their ideals on a certain philosophical level. Paristan Hill is a perfect example of this. Paristan is very simplistic at its core, but its intentions and moral codes are a complex web of inconsistencies and confusion. When someone's motives are unclear and their values are undefined, that makes them the most dangerous members of society, not only to the environment but also to themselves. Many social scientists and clinical psychiatrists often analyze a person's outcome from their actions to determine their motive and intended goal from the very beginning. They use the inverted equation of productivity to understand this. I'll give an example of this using Paristan as an apparatus in this case study. Paristan acquired 5,000 Chimera ants after the Chimera Ant King Miriam died. What was his motive behind this? The inverted equation method suggests that he might need them for his military to do something. He might want them for leverage in the future against the Hunter Association. He might also be planning to use them in a coup against the world government, and he might also want them to be his personal bodyguard in the Dark Continent if he decides to go there. Upon the start of the election arc, one of my favorite political gatherings by the way, Paristan also brought up the idea to self-elect himself as the 13th chairman. The inverted equation suggests that his motive are either to stroke his ego, to present himself as the superior leader, or to gaslight the rest of his colleagues with that statement. All of those motives for all of his actions are well reasoned and would be considered intellectually accurate if it was the motive of an average person who simply seek power and status, but not Paristan Hill. You see, Paristan's behavioral norms and intellectual discipline is just a byproduct of his need to have fun. A very simplistic motive to have as a catalyst to achieve such great feats, right? Well, welcome to the world of Paristan Hill, the triple star hunter. Paristan tends to diagnose and treat serious situations as mere games. He doesn't allow the importance of an issue or a problem to suffocate him and his livelihood, but instead, he associates his hardships and challenges with mere games in order to minimize the stress and maximize the enjoyment in the situation. On a side note, that is a model that I admire and the guideline that I follow religiously. It has helped and aided me a lot in my life to treat hard tasks like something that should be enjoyed rather than something to be annoyed by. I no longer question if it is worth it to fix my personal issues or take on more responsibilities in my life. I now seek out the fun in those issues and extra tasks and let it engulf me. To get impregnated by this type of mindset and cognitive thinking isn't easy, and there is certain absolutes that you must possess, and those were shown to me through the characterization of Paristan Hill. One of those absolutes is control. Paristan understands the need to be in control better than any of the current or past zodiacs except for Jin. The power struggle between the two to see who will be Beyond's second in command in the upcoming exploration to the Dark Continent explains why Jin is the first person that Paristan openly showed hatred and contempt for. Paristan hates Jin while simultaneously enjoys their rivalry. Paristan also knows that to dictate the linguistics that govern the dialogue in any environment usually comes from a position of leadership than anywhere else. He always tries to be that authority figure. That position of authority allows him to be more open with his diabolical thinking and also more comedic in his demeanor. Paristan manufactured an image of not being trustworthy nor reliant. That image has been extended beyond the boundaries of politics into almost all forms of social activities. As I lamented earlier, paying key attention to the details about a character off screen is very important. Before Paristan was even introduced, Morel made note of Paristan's untrustworthy nature when he first suggested that maybe Paristan, who was then the 12th vice chairman of the Hunter Association, was deliberately impeding their mission in defeating the Chimera Ants by not sending the right hunters for the job, but instead manipulating the committee by sending hunters who are less qualified for the hunt as to maximize the number of victims that will be killed by the Chimera Ants, and that was done to generate disgust towards Netero's prestige and credibility as a leader, as those hunters would have supposedly died while Netero was leading the mission. Morel suspected that Paristan was doing this to further his agenda to get more hunters on his side to vote for him over Netero in the upcoming election had Netero didn't die, and Morel was completely right. Paristan is always thinking long term. He's 10 moves ahead of the guy who is 10 moves ahead of everybody else. He became a hunter just for the sole purpose of journeying with Beyond Netero to the Dark Continent. He even picked a political fight with Isaac Netero every chance he gets in his tenure as his vice chairman in an attempt to get rid of Netero and thus making Beyond free to journey to the Dark Continent without any opposition from his father. He also allocated and hid away money that was meant to serve the Hunter Association needs into a private account for his future exploration to the Dark Continent. In his time as vice chairman, he also chipped away the Hunter Association credibility by purposefully hurting their relationship with the hunters by allowing more hunters to die and go missing at 10 times the rate as before he acquired the position. He manipulated the temp agency and thus dictating which hunter gets which hunt. He also gave his followers the most profitable hunt and tossed everyone else to the side. He also assembled a team to infiltrate the Hunter Association and their exam once he knew he would resign as Zodiac. He didn't just do all that because of his need to win. He's not interested in losing or winning. He's only primarily interested in having fun. His need for fun also slowed down his intended sabotaging of the Hunter Association, as he got deeply invested in playing with Netero rather than trying to get rid of him as fast as possible so Beyond could be free of his shackles and was able to go to the Dark Continent. Another key personality trait that I enjoyed about Pariston's character was that he's very unpredictable in his actions, which complements his need for personal enjoyment. I admire that quality a lot. Heads up guys, this is going to get a bit sexual. So men, in regards to their sexual linguistics and actions towards a woman, we learn a lot based on what we see in porn regarding the sexual relationship between men and women, what we do, how we do it, when we do it, are knowledgeable concepts that we manifest from watching porn. In Pariston's case, he draws his cue from a fucking horror movie. His personality isn't also bound to one trait. He will lure you in with his smile and calm and vibrant demeanor, but would suddenly test your virtues and temper with dog whistle statements to indicate something bad towards you or infer something terrible is going to happen to you. His unpredictability is a key weapon in his arsenal of being a scary monster from that horror movie. His energy is difficult to read and thus makes it bad news for you but something exciting for him. Pariston Hill is still a premature character within the narrative. His backstory, then affinity, then abilities, and true goals are still in the shadows, but that shouldn't stop us from labeling him what he is already proven to be within the story. He's an amazing character. Many thanks for watching guys. Lando checking out. Exodus.